Hello everyone, I am doing my example of the artist presentation that I'd like you all to accomplish this semester. Thank you to those of you who selected an artist that you're interested in doing, and I really look forward to hearing about your research and also seeing the images that you select. Perhaps they could be a significant player in your Google Arts and Culture galleries. I've decided for my presentation to go ahead and build a gallery, and I thought that would be a fun way, you guys are welcome to do also, to collect images. And I also know that the artist that I've decided to present, Hokusai, has an image that is in the book, Boy Playing Flute, that he has a lot of images available online and a lot available on Google Arts and Culture. So I was able to really flip through a lot of different pieces to be able to get to some that are some of my favorites. Hokusai was a Japanese printmaker and draftsman painter. He is known primarily for his ukiyo-e prints. This ukiyo-e stands for the floating world. This would be an example of one of these prints where you're seeing a translation of landscape, not a direct depiction of landscape. That is seen from multiple angles. We are looking down on this waterfall from an overlooking point of view from above, not quite a bird's eye. We're seeing this swirling body of water before it breaks the edge and falls down, becoming something of a moon shape. And I just am so enamored with a lot of his compositions and things that predecessors definitely used before him in a long history of Japanese printmaking and design, but he really, along with Hiroshige, made printmaking something that transformed how a lot of Western artists worked, including at that time a lot of Impressionists like Van Gogh, you may know of, and Degas, who did a lot of work, figural work, or Manet, not to be confused with Monet. Manet did a lot of work in different countries as well. So through the extended spread of trade and travel during the mid-1800s, we see a real surgence of influence by a lot of Japanese pieces. Let me scroll through a few of these. So I selected a couple of pieces, like you see here, man seated with an armrest, to give you another taste of the line quality that I'm drawn to in a lot of his brush paintings. To give you a little idea of what a brush painting is, I thought I'd show you a little bit of the setup and let you watch this video.
Preparation is a really important part of painting, and so here I have a flower petal palette, and I'm going to just draw a little bit of water and place a little bit of water into each chamber so that I can go ahead and make my various tones. Ideally, a painting will have several different tones. Okay, so here I've got a little bit of clear water in 3 of the chambers, and from my freshly made ink, I'm going to take a little bit of it and mix it in. And so this is going to make a dark or a gray value, and what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of pigment to each one so that ideally I have the purest black here on the suzuri and then a different or more intense color in here and a very, very light color just on the side. And you can almost rinse your brush in the other color. If you don't have enough, you can always just add a little bit of water. The main point is to make sure that you have these different tones in your water palette or your flower petal palette. You don't want to be mixing them up and having all of them the same color. So just be sure to have 3 very different colors. Here you see a dark one, a medium one, and a lighter tone, and with your black ink here.
So what you guys see with her piece is that she has this block, as she said, of freshly made ink. That's going to be something composed primarily of charcoal. And then the different size brushes over here that she's using to create different size of marks. And that's exactly what we see in this piece, Man Seated with an Armrest by Hokusai, where we're getting different values as you're studying. A light gray and a dark gray mixed with different line quality, which creates a heavier stroke. You can use a lot of descriptive words to talk about these kinds of active brush making skills, or a little bit more delicate, whimsical architectural details in this table, all the way down to these slightly unsturdy arms that are resting up his head. So I really am in awe of what we see about this skill set as far as creating variety of marks. And that goes for something like the tortoise, and for something like these koi, that you will see this white and dark switch on the fish to show the ripple, which is a great example of figure ground reversal. Positive, negative space is playing, and that's a huge concept to grasp. But what I really want you guys to start seeing is how an object, this fish being the figure, can be influenced by its environment. And in that case, we'll call that the ground, figure ground. So all of this plays into this idea of abrupt value change to create a figure ground reversal, or in this case, a slight shift. You may recognize one of his most famous works as The Great Wave. This combines the very bold blue of this lapis blue in the deepest dark of the waves, and these curling fingers that seem to be grabbing these boats with, as we can see here, these little rowers on top of these long boats. So we know that there's quite an intense storm underway right now. And also to note, this is part of a series of 36 views of Mount Fuji, which is probably one of single-handedly one of the best printmaking examples in our history. So that's a bold statement, but this being a very beautiful example, part of the reason why I'm so drawn to an artist like Hokusai, because we're starting to see the simplicity of form, the boldness of color, and the complete contrast of these cloud forms with the blue sky that creates something that in its use of those characteristics so stunningly, we're seeing something that changes single-handedly how a lot of artists approach their work and how they start really digesting the environment around them, not just trying to depict it verbatim. So in conclusion, I hope you guys see the amazing works of Hokusai with a whole different eye and a different sensitivity for what he is using as far as his materials and brushstroke and detail in a very minimal amount of application, all the way to something that's far more invested like his woodcuts. To end, I want to ask you a question, as you will do for the rest of the class, to spur on the response for your presentation by your classmates. I'm curious if you guys are more interested in this made-up world of landscape, or if you prefer seeing the detail and regiment of a landscape that is very much lifelike, that is almost like a photograph. And where do you fall on this spectrum of abstraction to real life? And this falls really at a midpoint in them. So give me a little indication in your response to my example of where you fall in this desire to see abstract versus realism. I look forward to seeing your guys' pieces, and make sure that you're selecting the platform that works best for you for presentation, whether it's Google Arts and Culture or a very scripted PowerPoint. Either way works well for me. See you soon.